the quarterly portfolio rebalancing is something that can really move markets for at least a short period of time. Hey folks, let's have a look at the dispersion that we've seen here in the first quarter of 2024 between the equity market and the bond market. And we've seen really a significant outperformance of the equity market, which I think is going to lead to some rebalancing. We'll touch on that here in a minute. But to give you some perspective, let's pull up the chart. What I did is very simple, 2 lines. S&P 500 is the green line on top. You can see in the first quarter, it was up about 10% here, 2024. The aggregate bond index, I'm using the AGG ETF, is down about 1%. And if we could replace that with other things, and it might be up 1%, right? So depending on which specific parts of the bond market and how, but the AGG is a kind of a holistic way, but still it's a big, big spread. So typically speaking, when you see a big dispersion like this, you're going to have some portfolio rebalancings as we finish out the first quarter, or maybe as we start the next quarter. And what that could mean, very simply, is that people have to bring the balance or the allocation of equities versus bonds back in line, because if equities have done so well, their part of the portfolio has gone up. So that could basically mean some selling pressure in equities and maybe some buying pressure in the bond market. To give you a little bit of an idea of how historic or how big this dispersion is, if we compare this, for example, to the fourth quarter of last year, and I'm going to try to give you this as close as I can. So roughly, this is about the fourth quarter. You can see, yes, the S&P still outperformed the bond index, but not by as much, right? Maybe about 5%, not 10%. So there was some portfolio rebalancing, and we actually did see some of that, but it wasn't nearly as much as we're seeing right now. So I think this is an important thing to be aware of. So if you're kind of near-term focused, or you're wondering what could the end of the first quarter here, beginning of the second quarter bring, I would argue, and this kind of fits into also where the market is in general, we have extreme bullishness, extreme bullish sentiment, so a bit of a breather, right? I'm not talking about market crashes here. Could be quite, actually would be nothing more than healthy, to be quite frank. And I think this sort of portfolio rebalancing may be part of that. We're actually already seeing some of that taking place. Now, one way of taking advantage of a market that is, in our view, quite difficult to trade directionally at this point because of the risk of a little bit of mean reversion. We like to do options credit spreads, which allow us to participate directionally, but also generate income. And I'm going to do a special presentation on that this week to show you how that works. But also, we're going to give you a specific strategy how we can do this on NVIDIA, how we can do it on something like Amazon.com or gold, the GLD ETF, and a whole bunch more. So if that's the kind of thing interests you, how we can generate income from those kinds of names or ETFs, we would love to have you in that presentation this week. As always, sign up down below or on the next screen, and we'll see you there.